The receptionist didn't look up when she spoke. "First-class lounges for priority guests only. Ma'am." Nia's boarding pass rested on the counter, bold letters spelling priority. The woman's eyes skimmed over it like a formality, landing instead on Nia's skin. "I am priority," Nia said, calm, unshaken. A pause. Somewhere behind them, laughter rippled, businessmen in tailored suits pretending not to watch. "I just need to verify," the woman murmured, already reaching for the intercom. Nia's voice stayed low. "Would you have verified for him?" She nodded toward the man in line behind her, pale, impatient, wearing the same boarding tag. The woman froze, smile faltering. "It's just procedure." "No," Nia said quietly. "It's habit." The air tightened. A guard approached, heavy steps echoing across the marble. He didn't ask questions, only scanned her from head to toe. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "Not anymore," Nia replied. She slid her pass back into her purse, her movements deliberate, slow. "I'll wait outside." As she turned, whispers followed, some sympathetic, most silent. The businessman looked away, pretending to check his phone. Narration drifted softly. "Some doors don't close with sound. They close with looks, and every look is a lock." Nia paused by the glass wall, watching planes lift into colorless sky. Her reflection stared back, steady, unbothered, yet heavy with recognition. They built these lounges to feel like the world they wanted, quiet, exclusive, untouched. But cracks form when truth walks in wearing confidence. Behind her, the receptionist's voice trembled into the intercom. "Cancel the call. She's cleared." Nia didn't turn. She just smiled faintly, not at victory, but at proof. The silence finally belonged to her. "Your ticket, please," the attendant repeated, voice sweet but sharp at the edges. Nia handed it over without a word. The attendant's eyes flicked to the name, Dr. Nia Carter, then back to her face, puzzled, as if the title didn't belong to the woman holding it. "This seat's quite expensive," she said, tone lowering. "Are you sure this is yours?" Nia inhaled slowly. "Yes, I booked it myself." The woman hesitated, glancing at the man behind Nia. Pale skin, blue suit, a smirk that didn't bother hiding itself. "Sometimes the system mislabels tickets," she offered. "Sometimes," Nia replied. "People do." The man chuckled quietly. "Maybe it's a mix-up. Happens all the time?" The attendant nodded too quickly. "Let me double-check." Nia's voice stayed calm, even as her heartbeat climbed. "Take your time, but check yours, not mine." The small crowd behind them began to stir, whispers fluttering like papers in wind. A woman with earbuds pulled them out, sensing something shift in the air. Narration folded in softly. Every question carried an echo, not of curiosity, but of disbelief. Every pause reminded her that worth was never assumed, only proven. The attendant's screen beeped. Color drained from her face. "It's valid," she muttered. "I know," Nia said simply. The man behind her looked away, pretending to scroll his phone. The silence grew thicker than the air itself. "Enjoy your flight, Dr. Carter," the attendant whispered, but the apology hid behind formality. Nia took her ticket back, fingers steady. "I will. I paid for peace, not permission." As she walked past, the murmurs faded into guilt, quiet, collective, and long overdue. ChatGPT said. The attendant stood frozen, fingers twitching at her collar. "I didn't mean," she began, but Nia's eyes stopped her. Calm, steady, unblinking. "You meant exactly what you were taught to mean," Nia said softly. "And I'm not here to teach you otherwise. Just remember." The crowd had grown quieter now. Phones lowered. Eyes darted. It wasn't outrage that filled the air, but shame, thin, invisible, contagious. The attendant swallowed hard. "It's policy. Sometimes we have to—" "Policy doesn't ask for your tone," Nia interrupted gently. "That's yours." Narration slipped through like a breath. Her words didn't fight back. They disarmed, quietly, deliberately. She'd learned long ago that calmness was the loudest rebellion in a room built for humiliation. The man in the blue suit from earlier shifted uncomfortably, pretending to check his boarding pass again. For the first time, his smirk faltered. "Dr. Carter, please?" The attendant tried again, voice now softer, almost pleading. "Let me escort you." "No need," Nia replied. "Just make sure the next woman doesn't have to prove her place in line." Silence. Pure, unmoving silence. Even the announcements above seemed to fade. Words about boarding drowned under the weight of unspoken reckoning. A child nearby tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mom, why is everyone so quiet?" Her mother whispered back, "Because someone finally said it right." Nia walked forward, heels steady against the polished floor. Narration closed in. The lesson wasn't in anger. It was in control, the kind that turns a moment of insult into a mirror for an entire room. She didn't look back. She didn't have to. The silence followed her like respect, finally learning her name. The hum of the cabin filled the space where words had no courage to live. Nia's heels clicked softly against the carpet as she walked down the narrow aisle, the sound cutting through conversations that suddenly quieted mid-sentence. "Guess money can't buy everything," someone whispered. Not loud, but enough. Another voice shushed them, guilt heavy in the air. Nia kept her gaze forward. She didn't need to turn to see the faces, the polite smiles, the sideways glances, the smirks hiding behind plastic cups. Each one a reflection of how easy it was to look away. The attendant, now avoiding eye contact, led her to a cramped seat in the middle row. "We're full today," she muttered. "I'm sure," Nia replied quietly. Narration slipped in. Every movement felt rehearsed. The small humiliations, the forced smiles, the careful choice of tone. It wasn't the fall that hurt. It was the ease with which people accepted it. A man 2 rows back leaned over to another passenger. "She's that CEO, right? The one on TV? She must have done something," the woman replied. "They wouldn't move her for nothing." Nia heard it. She always heard it. The lies people built to make prejudice feel like protocol. She sat, straightened her jacket, and folded her hands on her lap. Posture calm, face unreadable. The captain's voice came over the intercom, cheerful, detached. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be departing shortly." As the plane began to roll, Nia glanced at her reflection in the window. Let them see me sit. Let them remember how quiet injustice looks before it burns. Around her, the silence thickened. Not respect, not fear, just realization. The reckoning had already begun. ChatGPT said the plane had leveled off, but the air still felt heavy, like judgment had its own gravity. Trays clicked open. The faint smell of reheated meals drifted through the cabin. Yet beneath it all, there was something colder, the sound of people pretending not to notice. A soft chuckle came from across the aisle. "Guess upgrades aren't what they used to be," a man muttered, his tone carrying the confidence of someone who'd never been questioned about where he belonged. Nia kept her eyes on the clouds outside. They moved freely. No class, no privilege, no rules about belonging. The attendant approached again, fake smile fixed. "Would you like something to drink, ma'am?" Her tone was polite, but her hesitation betrayed her. The slight pause before ma'am. The discomfort of having to serve someone she had silently demoted. "Water's fine," Nia said softly. "Of course." The attendant poured it, the bottle trembling just enough to betray her nerves. From behind, another voice whispered, "That's her, the one from the news." Nia's reflection flickered faintly in the glass. She remembered every boardroom where her voice had been dismissed, every meeting where her calm was mistaken for compliance. The narration lingered. It wasn't new. It was recycled humiliation, dressed in civility, framed by silence. The attendant leaned closer. "You know, people talk," she said, too softly for others to hear. Nia turned to her, eyes steady. "Yes, and silence helps them finish their sentences." The attendant froze, lips parted, unsure what to say. A few rows up, someone coughed awkwardly. Another shifted in their seat. The shame was spreading, invisible, but undeniable. Nia leaned back, closing her eyes briefly. Let them sit with it, she thought. Let the silence do what my words no longer need to. Outside, the clouds stretched endlessly. Pure, indifferent, free. The seatbelt sign blinked on, but Nia's mind was already far from the cabin. The sound of the plane's idle engines blended into another hum, one she knew too well. The echo of air conditioning, the click of pens, the scrape of chairs around a long glass table. Brilliant concept, one executive had said years ago, flipping through her proposal. We'll revisit it. Revisit meant rewrite without her name. She remembered sitting at that same table weeks later, the same men presenting her idea, her slides, her words. Only their smiles had changed. In the present, the plane shuddered slightly. The memory stayed steady. Back then, she'd whispered, "That's my presentation." A pause. A look of practiced innocence. "Relax, Nia. It's teamwork. You should be proud your idea made it this far." Narration layered over the scene. Professional theft always came with manners. They never yelled. They just smiled while erasing you. On the plane, Nia's reflection flickered in the window, overlapping with her memory of the boardroom glass. She almost smiled at the symmetry. Another voice from the past surfaced, a senior partner, patronizing but polished. "You're valuable, Nia, just less visible, less visible." It had echoed then. It echoed now. A soft sigh escaped her lips. The passenger beside her glanced up, uncertain whether to ask if she was okay. She wasn't. But she was practiced at pretending. In her head, she replayed the stolen credits, the reshaped projects, the hollow apologies that followed. Every "you should be grateful" replayed like a chorus under the drone of the engines. Now, as the plane waited to move, she whispered to herself, almost inaudibly, "They never saw me, but they will remember me." And for the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It agreed. The phone buzzed softly against the tray table. Nia lifted it with the same composure she'd practiced all her life. Her thumb hovered over the call button for a heartbeat, then pressed. Silence stretched across the cabin like a taut wire. "Dr. Carter?" The voice was cautious, distant, professional. "Yes, delay the press release. They'll understand soon," she said. Calm, measured, every word deliberate. A pause, then a quiet acknowledgement. "Understood," she hung up. The phone returned to its cradle, but the weight of the action lingered. Passengers glanced at each other, sensing the shift before seeing it. The subtlety was sharp, the quiet authority undeniable. A man near the window muttered under his breath. "Did she just—" "She called someone," the woman beside him said. "That's government, isn't it?" The attendant stiffened, catching the glow of Nia's name on the airline's digital alert board. Dr. Nia Carter, Government Advisor Energy Infrastructure Partner. "Oh," someone whispered. The sound trembled with disbelief. Another passenger's phone clicked as they discreetly recorded. Narration settled in. The same cabin that had ignored her, judged her, and dismissed her now held its breath. Authority had shifted without a single raised voice, without confrontation, yet its presence was unmistakable. The attendant's hand twitched, unsure whether to offer water or apologize again. "You're doing fine," Nia said softly, eyes forward. "Just remember who you serve." Her tone was even, polite, but it carried the weight of years spent being invisible. The murmurs grew quieter, replaced by the tension of recognition. Those who had assumed her place were now aware of their mistake. Faces that once smirked now looked down, caught in their own reflections of shame and compliance. Nia leaned back slightly, folding her hands in her lap. Silence had become her instrument, and it played a melody everyone could hear. By the time the captain's voice returned to announce a departure, no one spoke above a whisper. The hierarchy had quietly, irrevocably changed. The glow of phones lit faces with a pale, accusatory light. A journalist tapped rapidly, her screen reflecting in the darkened eyes around her. "She's really government?" whispered a businessman, voice low, careful, Yes, murmured someone else. Energy infrastructure. Big contracts. The attendants exchanged a glance that trembled somewhere between fear and denial. Their rehearsed smiles faltered, a micro-expression of guilt too quick to catch. One of them muttered under her breath, "I didn't know." Nia didn't react. She kept her hands folded on her lap, exuding a quiet authority that made the air taut. Narration entered softly. Years of buried complaints and ignored memos had led to this fragile equilibrium. Each unspoken apology, every file that vanished into bureaucracy, every colleague who looked the other way had built a quiet foundation of privilege. That foundation now trembled under the weight of her presence. A young passenger leaned toward her friend. "They're recording everything, even the attendants." "They're finally realizing," the friend whispered. "The quiet ones always have the longest memory." The lead attendant swallowed, glancing down at her clipboard. I thought she was just another passenger," she stammered, voice barely audible. Nia's gaze lifted briefly, calm but piercing. "Assumptions are costly," she said softly, letting the words linger longer than any reprimand could. Another flashback. HR emails unread, complaints dismissed. The files stacked, ignored, buried under polite bureaucracy. The collective silence of power, meant to protect privilege, had finally been pierced. The cabin's energy shifted imperceptibly. Eyes that once ignored her now avoided hers in shame. Phones clicked, whispers faded, and the journalist typed with deliberate slowness, capturing every subtle reaction. Narration closed in. By the time the engines hummed, no one on that plane could remain untouched. Privilege had quietly unraveled, and the world outside would soon witness the echoes. The captain stopped a few feet away, his polished shoes barely making a sound against the marble. His voice wavered. "Dr. Carter, on behalf of the airline—" "Don't speak for the airline," Nia interrupted gently, her eyes steady. "Speak for the system that built it." He blinked, swallowing hard. I'm not sure You know exactly what I mean," she said, voice soft but cutting. "All of it. Policies, practices, whispered excuses, the structures you defend silently." A journalist leaned closer, phone raised. "Can you comment on the delay, Dr. Carter?" Nia glanced at the crowd, calm, unflinching. "The delay isn't what matters," she said. "The decisions that led here matter. Privilege is protected quietly, but truth always finds a way." The murmurs around them shifted, growing uneasy. A businesswoman whispered to her companion, She's not angry. Yet it feels louder than any protest." The captain straightened, face pale. "We followed protocol and ignored complaints," Nia said, leaning slightly forward. "You allowed microaggressions to persist, decisions to go unquestioned, people to be silenced. That is the protocol that fails." Another journalist typed rapidly, capturing the captain's tight expression. "Do you think this will change policy?" She didn't answer immediately. A long pause filled the terminal. Heavy, observant, reflective. Change isn't in the statement. It's in acknowledgement. It's in people finally seeing what silence has protected for so long. The captain's hands trembled at his sides. I never considered you did every time you looked away," Nia said softly. Privilege isn't lost with rage. It collapses under observation, under truth, under quiet correction. The reporters exchanged glances. Phones lowered slightly. Passengers and staff who had ignored her before now shifted in recognition of the weight she carried. Silence rippled across the terminal. Authoritative, undeniable, and final. Narration lingered. The power that once loomed here had no voice left. A quiet woman's presence had rewritten the rules. No declaration, no anger, just dignity and a system suddenly exposed. The attendant's hand shook as she handed out a blanket. "Ma'am, everything's ready in economy now," she said, her voice brittle. Nia took it without looking up. "Thank you." Her tone was quiet, unyielding, nothing more than acknowledgement. A passenger whispered to another, just loud enough to carry, "Did you see how she handled him?" Another shook her head. I didn't expect that calm." The journalist tapped furiously on a laptop, glancing at the airline employee. "They're going to have to answer for this," she muttered. The flight attendant pressed her palms together. I never meant—" "None of you did," Nia said softly. "Privilege works quietly. It isn't loud. It creeps, it protects itself, it hides in politeness. You've all been part of it, willingly or not." A passenger coughed, shifting in her seat. She doesn't raise her voice, but it feels like she's everywhere." The attendant's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, really. Apologies don't fix structure," Nia said, eyes forward, calm, unflinching. "They only soothe conscience. Change comes from recognition, not regret." A mother tucked her child in, looking at Nia for guidance. She's showing us something," she whispered. Nia's fingers folded in her lap. No sound, just presence. The silence amplified, filling every corner of the cabin. Phones clicked, cameras swiveled, yet no one interrupted her calm. Her dignity mirrored back the discomfort of every small injustice previously ignored. Outside, the terminal screens blinked headlines. "Fly fare trending. Dr. Nia Carter." Airline faces scrutiny. Passengers glanced up, mouths closed, eyes widened. Conversations stalled. The power that had seemed absolute moments ago now trembled in quiet, a revelation without anger, without protest, only recognition. She breathed slowly. The plane remained grounded, but the truth had already moved, faster than any flight could carry it. Eyes shifted, whispers spread, and the collective understanding that silence could be louder than speech filled the cabin. Narration lingered. No one spoke loudly, yet everything changed. Dignity had taken the aisle, and the system had already begun to bend beneath it. The phone buzzed on her desk, another notification blinking insistently, but Nia didn't reach for it. The city stretched below, lights flickering as if the skyline itself had paused to witness the quiet unraveling of power. A knock at the door, soft, hesitant. "Nia." The statement. "It's going live now," her assistant said, voice careful. "I'll watch from here," Nia replied, eyes fixed outside. "No need to involve me further." Her assistant hesitated, then nodded, retreating silently. The TV flickered on in the corner, images of the CEO stepping down, the words "resignation accepted" scrolling underneath. The airline's logo, once a symbol of authority, now seemed hollow. A reporter's voice echoed, "After viral coverage of Dr. Carter's encounter, internal reviews prompted a full leadership change. The attendant involved has issued a public apology, admitting systemic failings." Nia's fingers traced the window ledge, smooth glass beneath her touch. She remembered the aisle, the whispering passengers. The tension folded into every polite smile. She had said nothing, yet the system itself had trembled. Her assistant reappeared, offering coffee. "People are thanking you." Activists, strangers, colleagues, all messages piling up. Nia's eyes didn't leave the skyline. "Let them talk. My role isn't to reply. Some victories are measured in silence, in the space left for reflection, in the weight others feel when confronted with truth." The office was still, only the hum of the air conditioning and distant traffic outside. Her gaze lingered on the sunset's horizon, a slow, deliberate fading of light. Power can collapse quietly without spectacle, she thought. Acknowledgement doesn't need applause. Integrity doesn't need broadcast. The phone continued its silent insistence, yet she didn't move. The world had reacted. The headlines blared. The system shifted, and she, composed, dignified, let the echoes speak louder than any word she might send. Narration lingered. Not every victory is loud. Some are profound because they leave others to confront themselves, and the silence becomes their reckoning. The airport was quiet now, the chaos of headlines and tweets replaced by the low hum of machines and distant footsteps. Nia leaned against the terminal glass, her reflection blending with the fading horizon. The empty runway stretched endlessly, a silent witness to the confrontation that had shifted everything. A security officer approached cautiously. "Dr. Carter, everything's cleared. No further issues." "The plane remains grounded as requested." Nia didn't turn. "It's not about the plane," she said softly. "It's about the space we all occupy and the respect that defines it." The officer nodded, hesitant. "Understood." From a nearby cafe, murmurs reached her ears. Passengers whispered to each other, some in awe, others in quiet shame. The attendants passed by, heads bowed, rehearsed smiles failing. Nia's golden ticket lay folded in her hand, a symbol, yes, but also a reminder of composure that spoke louder than outrage. Her assistant appeared, placing a folder on the counter. "Coverage is settling. Analysts say it's more than just an incident. People are talking. Systemic accountability, boardroom changes." Nia's gaze remained on the horizon. "Let them talk," she said. "They will, but they'll also remember. Some lessons are learned in silence, in reflection, in the weight of being confronted with truth." A journalist stepped closer, voice cautious. "Dr. Carter, will you comment?" She shook her head slightly. "No comment needed. The story is bigger than me. The system, its reckoning, is what matters." The sun dipped lower, streaking gold across the tarmac. Her reflection in the window seemed to walk alongside the fading light, merging resolve with calm. Narration whispered. The plane remained grounded, but dignity soared. No headlines could capture it fully, no viral post could contain it. Respect had been reclaimed, quietly, unshakably, and it would linger far longer than any storm. Her voice, once raised in silence, now echoed in every pause, every glance, every thought left unspoken. The lesson was clear. Respect has no class.